Welcome everybody to Service Drive Revolution. We have an exciting show for you today. Jeremy, you know what we're going to talk about today?
I am waiting here, wondering what we're going to talk about today.
He actually does already know. How do I stop from having my pay plan changed? That's what we're going to talk about. How do I stop from having my pay plan changed? We're also going to answer your questions. We have some really good questions from the audience. I almost feel, Jeremy, that could be the show sometimes. Some of these questions go pretty deep.
Absolutely. And you know, we got something coming up towards the end of the year in Vegas. We got the SEMA show coming in Apex. We should do a live broadcast there with some of the listeners on set with us where we take their live questions. That would be awesome.
Maybe we should have a contest where we fly somebody out. First of all, did you get chosen as a speaker?
They don't announce that till June 15th. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure you will. I don't know that I will, but you will for sure. We should have a party out there, and maybe we should have a Service Drive Revolution contest where we fly in one of our listeners, like we put everybody in a hat or something. I don't know. We have a contest for them sharing it on social or something. Let's figure out a contest. We fly them out. So we put them up in a hotel, and then we have a little cigar tequila party and invite people. Could be kind of fun. We're kind of known for that.
I'm down for that for sure.
We'd drink the good stuff.
Let's do it. I think everybody's ready to have a good event like that. And I think...
Or do you think we'll be able to be within 6 feet of each other by then?
No, we'll still have to be 6 feet apart. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to have all these regulations we're going to have to do. But, you know, at a private party, you can probably do whatever you want. So we'll see what happens. But we just got to make sure we do follow the rules of the broadcast when we're there. So we'll get it done.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm excited. Hey, Chris, guess what?
What?
You have inspired me, sir. Look for those of you that are listening, I'm holding in my hand a relic that is just priceless. It's my very first vinyl record that I've bought.
It's called The Automotive Performance Opportunity with Zig Ziglar.
Yep.
That's incredible.
And on the back, this is the company, the Automotive Performance Group, and Zig was a vice president. So there's his picture right there in the center there. So.
Wow, he looks young there. Have you listened to it?
No, it hasn't even been opened. Like the cellophane's torn in a couple places, but dude, it's brand new. It's in great condition for how old.
What is he talking about on there?
He says their philosophy is this: you can get everything you want in life if you help others get what they want in life.
Jeremy. Hey, buddy.
Oh my gosh, our hacker is back.
That's
How
right.
did you get in here?
So you want to hear something really funny, Jeremy? Is he came to work today, right, thinking that we were doing this on Zoom. And so you know the jokes that we've said about not wearing pants?
I cannot wait to see this.
He's literally not wearing pants. Like
oh my gosh.
It's so
nice.
He's got on what are those shorts?
These are my Chicago Cubs shorts.
He's wearing his Chicago Cubs workout shorts. Because what Christian has been doing is he comes in and he does coaching calls on Zoom or whatever he's doing. He'll have the polo shirt on, right? But then about 3:30, 4 o'clock, he drops the polo shirt and he's ready to work out. So he's really wearing his workout stuff all day because we have this little prison yard weight set outside on the deck. And
I've seen that.
Yeah, he's doing that. But it's so funny. He wasn't ready today. He thought he was on Zoom. And I'm like, no, we're setting up the set. Only Jeremy's on Zoom. And he was like, oh, man.
It's great, though, because I feel like the roles have reversed. Like, you're almost the Zoom hacker now, right? So how does that feel?
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you. Say that one more time.
Do you feel a little bit mysterious because you're the Zoom hacker? It's really power. Knowledge is power.
I kind of feel like Max Headroom must have felt in the 80s. Like looking in on the world. Yeah, absolutely. It's a little surreal. It's nice to be here. But actually, I feel like I'm actually sitting at the table with you guys, which is normally reversed. I kind of feel like I got fired because like you're in my seat. So is this like a covert takeover, or
I'll keep it warm for you. That's all I'm saying.
No, come on, Jeremy. Tell everybody the truth. The truth is that later this week, Jeremy is coming in and we're writing content for a course that we're creating together. And it made no sense for him to drive in that many days in a week when he's 7 hours away or whatever in the middle of nowhere, inland empire. So it didn't make sense for him to come in and out. So that's why he's on Zoom, but no other reason than that.
And here's what's happened. Do you guys know how many incoming phone calls we had yesterday at the shop? And we're a small shop, so the scale of this should blow you
I'm going to guess a lot because it's been picking up everywhere.
Yeah, 203.
Holy cow, that's great.
I've never.
You need to hire some techs, Jeremy.
Till 8 o'clock, it rang and rang and rang and rang. So
you need to hire some techs.
I got the text going.
You're going to need more with 203.
We can help
Fired
with
my
that.
manager yesterday.
That's fun.
Your shop's going to be making more than most dealerships here coming up.
Let's do it. Well, you know what, Chris? You know what I'm really excited about is we're developing a parts department here in the next week.
Nice.
Why are you excited about that? You're going to have a parts manager.
Because I can blame everything on parts. I can't blame anything right now.
Are you going to get a parts manager?
Yeah, absolutely. Just apply
So
at
funny.
info@freedomautorepair.com.
Hilarious. Okay, so things have been picking up for us. We're
Holy
busier
cow.
than we've ever been. Also, it seems like on the dealership side of things, there's just clearly winners and losers. It's as clear. There's nobody in the middle.
Nope.
You were either a winner or a loser during this, and it all, like we were saying from the very beginning, it's all mindset. But that just is as obvious as could ever be. Like right now, dealerships are talking about still laying people off, while the ones that handled it right are busier than they were before. Because I was saying, I don't know if you remember, it's going to get pent up. There's going to be pent up demand. Sales still isn't clicking. So if the average car on the road was 12 years old, it's going to be 13 years old here coming up. Because people aren't buying cars. Now, if Trump and his administration do something like cash for clunkers, then that'll turn things around. I think that's what we need. So hopefully something like that is in the plans, but they seem to be moving pretty slow.
You know what's funny is in the independent world, they're really trying to fight that. They're all afraid of cash for clunkers. And all the associations have this like grassroots lobbyist going to fight the cash for clunkers. Obviously, the dealerships would love
Oh, wow. I never thought of that. So the independents don't want cash for clunkers.
it. No, they would love people to just, sink
Never buy a new
$8,000.
car, right? Like Cuba. They want it to be Cuba where you're restoring like
1984 Datsuns.
No, bro. Those cars are from the 50s.
Nice.
Yeah, and they're putting 4-cylinder boat engines in them to keep them running, right?
Yeah, that's what you got. That's what you want, right?
But man, I'm not worried about it. It's like, yeah, if whatever we can do to help our economy out, to help customers get into good vehicles. Dude, we haven't even seen the fallout of this. Hertz filing bankruptcy. All these things we're still months away from seeing the fallout of the last 2 months. And regardless of what program's out there, there's gold out there. Like if I was a dealership right now, I would contact every single person in my customer base and I would offer them a free consultation. And just with all the special financing offers that are out there, no payments for 120 days, 0% financing, I would really, if you offered 5,000 initial consultations and you had 1% of those customers hit, that's 50, right? So now you've got 50 initial consultations. That's a surefire way to sell 5 or 10 cars immediately. So the process is, the gold is out there. You just got to find a way to do it, and it's not going to fall in your lap. So
Jeremy,
it doesn't matter what program they have.
I don't understand one thing. Either one of you can explain this to me. How is real estate going up, and how is the stock market up 30% since March? How does this make any sense?
It defies
Well, it
logic.
doesn't.
For
It's
sure.
either setting up for a very big crash again, or it's just that the money's available and the value has been built on cheap credit, which is what led us to the housing debacle in 2006 and 2007. So my 15-year-old son's like, Dad, we got to buy stocks. Like, we got to put our money in the market right now. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. He's all, but this stock is at this. And I say, hold on, pull up the max chart. Well, look, it's still $20 a share higher than where it was 3 years ago. There's still room for things to fall. So it's not a silver bullet. It's interesting to see. And Chris, you can relate to this. Every generation goes through these cycles, right? But this is an unprecedented economic cycle that we're going to have to go through. And they're likening this to, and I don't know if you've seen these acronyms, COVID is being likened and marked just like Christ. So you know how like in time in history we talk BC, before Christ, and then AD, so it's like before Christ or after Christ. Now they're saying we're going to relate to things as before COVID, BC, and then AC, after COVID. So it's definitely a change. There's a lot going on, but I'll have some more conspiracies for you next week, sir.
None of that seems too, you're not really your usual conspiracy self.
There was some truth there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I agreed with what you were saying, so oddly.
It wasn't edgy enough. Speaking of conspiracies, I was going to tell you, Jeremy, so I got out last weekend a little bit, right? So it was my first time. And
your parole officer let you out of the house?
Crazy. I had to keep the ankle bracelet on, as usual. But it was neat. So I went out, and I threw a boomerang. And I've been living in fear ever since.
How would you rate that joke going over?
I just want to make sure you didn't throw it far enough that it's going to hit me in the head.
Joke, like there's a delay.
Right. There's two people that just got it now.
That was a huge delay, like, and then
it was almost it.
That's because my brain was still processing. Wait, I've been living in fear ever since. I get it.
There you go.
But back to how is real estate going up when clearly, like, the thing that I'm hearing is that a lot of tenants on the commercial side have closed up their business, taken the signs, they're gone, and they're not paying rent. A lot of law firms here in downtown LA have gone virtual, and so they've left their offices. There's going to be a huge deficit in retail commercial revenue because people are working remotely and they don't need the office space that they did. There's also, I know here in California, they passed a thing where you can't evict anybody until August, but there's a lot of evictions pending and coming because people haven't been paying rent. And then the Fed said that the fix to it is that we need to stop giving people unemployment because they're making more on unemployment than they were making when they had a job. So now people aren't even looking for jobs because they're making more than they were. And so it's kind of this perfect cocktail that I don't understand how you think that people are going to spend money on things that drive the stock market. Most people are going to be spending money on the lowest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is just food and shelter.
Yeah, and Chris, so for service advisors out there and service managers and dealership principals, what's interesting is this. What our economy is living off of right now is all the stimulus and all the savings. So right now, what I believe you're seeing, especially now, you've got two distinct areas with
What did somebody just walk in? What happened?
Oh, that was my calendar. I'm sorry. It was all me.
Reminding you what? To go to lunch?
Oh, no, that's I got to shut down my shop management program. They just sent me a job. I got to go.
It was a very polite sound, though, wasn't it?
Okay, finish your thought.
My thought is this. This is the ramp up before the cliff.
Yeah, that's what I think. So I'm not going to buy anything. I'm just going to hold on because I think that there'll be a lot of opportunity to buy coming out of this. Also, like, all the stimulus and all that. I don't understand how they're just giving all that away like they are. It's an interesting thing, but I think that financially things are going to get harder. But there might be a delay to it, right? Kind of like Christians' jokes. The economy is a lot like Christians' jokes. There's a delay in the response.
And then the hammer drops.
Yeah,
so we have to live in fear.
Let's go to God. And let's ask God. God, did we have any questions?
God had many questions.
I think by many he means 3.
By many, God means 4.
Oh, geez. We're going to be here a while. Put on your seatbelts.
This first question comes from Joshua, my favorite book in the Bible.
Can you hear him, Jeremy?
Yes, I can. God is omnipotent. It's vibrating through every fiber of my being.
Okay, perfect. What's the question, God?
Chris, I am approximately 9 months into my first job as a service advisor. He spelled it right. I came into this job with 0 experience in the automotive industry. I really feel like I've found my true calling, and your books, videos, and podcasts have helped me increase my per RO sales by leaps and bounds. My question is this: how can I get customers to stop and look at their vehicle with me during check-in when they have been trained for years by other advisors I work with to just drop off their vehicles? I want to build rapport and trust with these people, but it's seemingly impossible to do that when I can't get them to slow down and walk around the vehicle with me. Please help a new advisor desperate to build the circle of trust.
Good question. Did you hear that, Jeremy? So
I did, absolutely.
the customers are conditioned to just drop off their cars and run. Is it a he or she?
He.
Joshua wants to pet the dog. He wants to, spend a little time with them, but they're conditioned to run and gun. So, I mean, the first thing there, Joshua, is you got to control the narrative. And so that narrative starts when they make an appointment. So you could call your customers if you have appointments specifically for you. I don't know how your service drive works, but if you have them specifically for you, you could call the day before and or text and just say, hey, I'm expecting you at 8. Can't wait to see you. Plan on spending 10 minutes together, something like that. And so you can kind of do the persuasion, the pregame. And then the other thing is when they get there, just say, meet them and say, oh, okay, I'm so glad you're here today. So I need a couple minutes. We're going to, let's look at your car together and let's catch up and, let me ask you a few questions and just take control from the very beginning. That's it. Just assume it. I don't think it's any harder than that.
Yeah, the best way to make somebody do something is to not give them an option. So I think that is the thing, and exactly what you said, framing the situation. Not only does it help to establish control, but it also lets the client know what's going to happen. And then that starts to give them comfort in the experience. And if you're framing and explaining what happens every step of the way, there aren't any surprises. And I think that's what builds up a great customer experience.
I think customers want you to take control, ultimately.
They want to know that whoever they're dealing with is the right person for the job.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I agree. And God can relate to this one. So, Chris, you said it perfect. You got to control the narrative. You've got to have your process down. You got to do the pregame. I think now more than ever, we've got a pregame better than ever. We need to, reach out to that customer, be prepared for our appointment, go through our pre-appointment checklist. But when you're at the car and you're petting the dog and that customer wants to walk the other way, you do what Jesus did to get his disciples. You just you look at them and you say, follow me, and you turn around and walk into your desk. That's it. And then you don't wait for them. You let them come. That's how Jesus gathered his disciples.
Great segue back to God. Do what your son used to do with his disciples and just say, follow me. That's genius, Jeremy. Genius.
God approves.
Can we get a stamp on that says God approved?
We can make that up. You can put that we can put that on our ROs.
I really thought you were going to the free booze part of like turning water into wine, but I don't know. I like follow me way better.
It works.
This next question comes from YouTube. Hello, Chris. I am a new service manager. I was a shop foreman for 2 months after being a tech for 30 years. What advice would you give a new service manager that was a tech for as long as I was? I seem to have done well in 6 months. I'm a natural leader. I work hard and don't put things off. I guess a good question would be, how do I have confidence in myself even though I know I have a lot to learn? Maybe that narrows it down. Thanks for your videos. I'm learning a lot.
So was a tech, became a service manager.
Shop foreman. Yes.
Was a shop foreman, became a service manager.
Yeah, 3 ranks in that ladder: tech, shop foreman, then service manager.
So the first thing I would have done is I would have made you write service for 6 months. That's what I would have done, but just because you got to see it from that side of things, it's a completely different side of it. But I think the topic we're going to talk about today too is, make sure that you are managing from a position of what's important and what are the true measurables of winning or losing. I think a lot of times we promote a foreman to service manager and we're like, here's the desk, here you go. And they don't understand that profitability and retention are the 2 most important things you want to focus on. So do everything you can to educate yourself on the customer experience and systems and profitability in the financials. So I don't know if you're in our on demand or if you're in our coaching, but I would get in there and I would learn right away, get a coach and learn the financials, learn pricing strategies. The industry has let you down as far as there isn't really good training for service managers, and you need some training. I always make the joke that a guy running a 7-Eleven has more training than a service manager. Like, you ask a guy running a 7-Eleven about items per customer, margins, they just know, they understand retail. And you went from a production position to a retail position, and you want to learn that. So surround yourself with a coach and get in our coaching group and learn that stuff, and then everything will be a lot easier. Because also what happens is when you don't understand what's important and how to create an outcome for what's important, like you don't understand how to create profitability, you don't understand how to recruit, how to lead, you end up just slowly becoming irrelevant because most of your day is spent just fixing broken things like upset customers and fading heat all day, basically. So you're going to get to the point where you're going to come in, grab the tiger by the tail, it's going to pull you around all day, and you're going to go home and you don't know if you won or lost. So you need some superpowers and some magic right up front, in my opinion. What do you think, Jeremy?
I do. I wrote down, Chris, those are great thoughts, that you need to build your service department around systems and reinforce it with the right people. Initially, I wrote
systems first.
Systems first, absolutely.
Nobody likes to hear that because everybody's like, "Oh, people are so important." I used to debate that with people all the time. Like, "Oh, you're such a jerk. You don't think people are the most important thing." That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying systems first.
90% of the people out there are a-holes, so I like systems better than people.
Wait, we should have a bit on here where we play a piece of music and like a drum roll, and then is it fact or conspiracy?
That was all conspiracy.
Are 90% of people a-holes? Is that a fact or is that a Jeremy conspiracy?
Right. We could also put a poll on there, like Time says 90%, 70%, or 40% of people are a-holes. But Jeremy's going full 9 out of 10. That means almost everybody here is an a-hole.
Yeah, so basically in this room, you're saying that God is an a-hole. You're saying that Christian is an a-hole. Kosh and Michael are a-holes, and the only one that isn't an a-hole is me. That's what you're saying.
Well, that's not exactly what I said.
That is exactly what you said. How do you call God an a-hole?
Oh, very easily. Look at all the rules he places on us. Have you read the Bible?
Let's get back on track. So systems first.
Systems first. Build your service department around systems. Now, the other thing is this: believe in yourself. Here's what's cool. They took you from a 30-year tech, put you in a shop foreman role for 2 months, and then moved you into service management. Dude, that rocks. High five.
Yeah, you clearly are a leader, and you have a lot of good qualities because they believe in you.
Absolutely. And I used to fight with my wife about this all the time. I have always had a coach. I pay for coaching out of my own pocket, and coaching has made me more money than I've ever spent. You want a 10-to-1 return on your investment? Invest in yourself. Coaching is the way to go. I love it, and it keeps you on track. It's going to help you out.
I would never fight with my spouse about that. It's not debatable. It's not open for conversation.
It's always open for conversation.
I'm writing 3 books right now And the third one is for you. It's called Taking Back America One Relationship at a Time.
Why is it for me?
Because you're debating that with your wife. It's not debatable. We're taking that relationship back.
Oh, man, you know what, man? Today's awesome. I just got a new arrow in my quiver. So the next time she says something, I'm just going to be like, well, stop. This is not debatable. And I'm going to walk away.
And that's coming from 1 out of the 10 people that isn't an a-hole.
Let me tell you something that probably won't work.
Oh, it will.
No, it's like, okay, so let's just talk about being alpha for a second, right? So is the person who walks in the room and says, I'm alpha, ever really the alpha?
No.
That's what you just did to your wife. Yeah, I know you're confused. You're going to have to read the book, but it'll all be in there laid out for you.
Yeah, but that was
The
your
dedication
strategy,
is going to be
man.
to Jeremy O'Neill. Read it twice. Okay.
I just appreciate the tool. This is not debatable.
Okay. Next question, God.
This next one comes from YouTube. Hey, Chris and Jeremy, huge fan of the show. Been an advisor now for a couple years, and my manager just told me he wants to learn parts also, which I feel is huge for my career. 2 questions on that. 1, if I'm in parts and service, who can I blame everything on? But also, I was wondering if you have any tips or suggestions for me learning this new position. I'm going to stay an advisor, but just have parts training also. Thanks a bunch.
So stay an advisor, but be trained on parts. I think, what do you think, Jeremy?
I'm concerned for this person because obviously there's something in their behavior that their service manager is seeing that they want them to learn parts. So he must have seen that you like to deflect things. Like I deflect blame and all that. You just are going to stay in your office and never come out? Like what's happening to that? You're not going to connect with people? And then, I know you're not going to check in your stock order and I'm only going to get 1 rotor when I need 2. So this is great. Your CSI scores are going to tank. So I completely understand where he's going with it. I'd have to look in the mirror and be like, what did I deserve to get to kick the parts? Come on.
Oh, you're going to start a parts revolt. So
now, seriously.
So there's something wrong with the fact that your boss wants you to learn parts because what he wants you to learn is how to deflect blame, how to sit in your office all day. What else?
Not checking the stock order, so we only get 1 of the 2 rotors that we
Never check the stock order, just let it automatically order whatever it thinks. So it orders 1 rotor instead of 2. Woo! That's funny.
That might work in the NASCAR states where they just turn left all day long. So
I don't know. I think I'm kind of like to the question before in a lot of ways, like, hey, somebody thinks more of you that they want you to learn more stuff. Learn everything you can. You'll never regret it. I think with parts, most of everything you kind of need to know is on the month-end statement. I can look at a parts department's month-end statement, and I can see how much they're adjusting the stock order. I can see how many lost sales they're putting in. I can, see their inventory, their obsolescence, their margins, all that. So I don't know. I would embrace it, and I would learn everything I can. Always. That's always been my approach.
I would ask a question in a non-threatening way, which would be, what's the outcome of this? What is it that I need to learn from doing this? Because, our world is changing and shifting. So why is it that you want me to go learn the parts department? Is it for the grand scheme of things? Am I grooming myself for service management, general management role? So that's just maybe one of the questions that I would ask.
I would say, too, just thinking about this, I don't know that I've ever pieced this together, but the best parts managers I've ever had were service employees that I turned into parts managers. So Gary, for example, was a service manager that was made a parts manager. A guy in Illinois, Ken, same thing. He was a assistant manager, made him a parts manager. And so some of the best parts managers I've ever worked with or had came from service. So
And you know why that is, right? So there's a reason why that works so well. Because when you go...
Stop for a second. Do you think this is going to be a joke or is this going to be real, Jeremy?
No, I think it's real.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, although that seems to be happening more lately where I'm talking to people and they're like, wait, is this a joke? So,
That's what I was thinking.
So I'm going to have a little sign, no joke. Totally serious. Okay. So the reason that works, it's a beautiful recipe because when you grow up in the parts side, your main focus is what? It's the parts,
you
it's
never
the
know
inventory,
the others,
right?
because you affect service in a big way.
But you
Kinda
don't
like I
even
was
know
saying,
it.
the foreman should write service for 6 months before he becomes a manager.
Same exact theory. But when you go from service to parts and you're thinking about the operations of the parts department, but your background's in service, you're like, okay, how does this affect the customer?
Yeah, how do I get these techs to be more efficient? Because honestly, a lot of parts managers, their training and their mindset comes from the position of control. They're more worried about you clapping when you're walking around the parts department so you're not putting anything in your pocket or stealing than they are about how long it takes to get a part to a tech. They're more worried about not ordering the part and getting in trouble for the obsolescence than they are ordering the part and figuring out how to sell it.
Yeah, it's misguided focus. Like they want to do
That's
a
a good
job.
point. Yeah, I agree with that.
But I think that really the thing is if we get, and hands down, our best parts managers that we see in our client base are always the ones that are, well, what about the customer? The second they ask that question, you know that that's the person that should be running that
Do you
department.
think, Jeremy, you think God has been seeing his girlfriend during this quarantine?
Which one?
I think he only has one girlfriend, right, God?
God only has one girlfriend.
I don't know. Isn't there a rule that like different continents doesn't count or something like that? So he could technically have 7?
No. God's faithful. God's monogamous. He's got one. But do you think he's had like a conjugal visit?
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
God, have you had a conjugal visit?
God can neither confirm nor deny whether God has had a conjugal visit from his girlfriend.
That's a clear yes. Clearly.
Did you get that from your interrogation skills? You
Yeah, everybody, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a certified interrogator, and God just basically confirmed.
Admitted it without admitting it.
Yeah. Any more questions, God?
God has one final question.
Can you imagine being God's girlfriend? The pressure. You gotta like, that's what you should talk to your wife about, Jeremy. Like, hey, I was talking to God today, and you need to feel lucky that you're not God's. You're not married to God. Think about the pressure that comes with that.
True.
This final question comes from LinkedIn. How do I know I'm getting a good pay plan if offered a service manager position? Is there some general percentage of gross profit or something like that? I'm currently an assistant service manager and I get 9% of net gross profit, and at $35 or above I get 10% plus a $1,500 monthly CSI bonus plus $600 fixed base pay for being the assistant service manager. I am in charge of 5 advisors and 14 techs. Total monthly gross labor is currently at $200,000 and room for growth. What does that sound like for a range of pay?
Okay, first of all, 5 advisors and 14 techs. You either need more techs or you need to get rid of some advisors. But the rule of thumb here is
Well, that depends on how good their parts department is.
is 1 to 3. So if you have 5 advisors, you should
Short
have
tech, 15.
What? 15?
Short one.
And how many did he say he had?
14.
14. So you need one more tech at least. And then I don't know. Like Christian might. I don't want him to hear this because he might take that job.
So
what percentage of gross?
It's 9%.
9% of gross, Jeremy. So he's getting a $1,500 CSI, 9% of gross, and what else?
A $1,500 monthly CSI bonus.
So for every 10,000 in gross, you're making $900.
Yeah, so he said that there was an average of $200,000 a month. At 9%, that's $18,000 in commission plus the CSI bonus of $1,500. Plus it was a $600 a month kicker. So if my math,
that's a pretty juicy pay plan.
so that's $20,100 a month to be the assistant manager. That's $241,000.
Where's this dealership?
He doesn't say. He wishes to remain anonymous.
Christian and I are looking for jobs.
Holy cat tattoos, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's a juicy pay plan. Get that gross to 400,000, double it. Even making.
Could you make 40 grand a month to be the assistant service manager?
That's what you make when you're a general manager in a big store.
And the one thing, I mean, my mind is just wrapped around, the gross, the big number is fine, but what are what's your effective labor rate? What are your technicians pushing out every single week? Can you push those numbers up and literally double the numbers? So it sounds to me like it's a pretty good pay plan. And if I could get the name of that dealership, I'll put it on my watchdog for when they're hiring and I'm there.
Yeah, that's a good pay plan. I would encourage you to pay attention to what we're going to talk about next, though, because the one thing that happens is you think that pay plan's juicy, and then 6 months later they come in and change your pay plan, and you're not sure why. That's what we're going to talk about. Was that the last question, God?
God has no further questions.
Thank you, God. Good job. Thank you.
I have a question. What do you call someone that doesn't respect social distancing, goes around sneezing and not covering their mouth, and then walks into the grocery store and buys 200 rolls of toilet paper?
I don't know. What do you call them?
A COVIDiot.
A COVIDiot? Are people still hoarding toilet paper?
I don't know. It really worked for the joke.
That's funny. Okay, so I was thinking about this, Jeremy, and this actually happened to me before the lockdown. I was flying back from the Midwest, and I'm on the plane sitting next to somebody, and you know how when you're sitting next to somebody on the plane and it's that weird, like, do you talk to people when you're sitting next to them on the plane?
I try not to. I put my sunglasses on, put my earbuds in, and if they talk to me, I just let them know that I'm a fundraiser for a religious cult. And if they had a few minutes, I could talk to them.
Yeah, so the thing that happens there is if you do talk to them, then now this is your best friend for the next 4 hours or whatever, right? So you're kind of stuck with them.
That's so frustrating. Like, if you want to get some work done, right, or you had a plan for that time, it's like, oh, no. So, been there.
Yeah. I think the time I sat next to you on a plane, you just went to sleep.
That was you, sir.
No, that was him.
No, you were out.
I was in the
It was
back of
weird,
that
too.
plane.
He had, like, a whole thing. Didn't he have, like, an eye cover?
He was prepared.
Like, what are those things you wear when you sleep? You were out, bro.
Are you talking about our trip to Kansas City?
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were
We had
napping.
a great conversation on the way there. Maybe the trip back I slept.
The trip back, you didn't even make takeoff, Jeremy. It was
Tired.
It was so
You
impressive.
worked hard, though. You spoke 2 times, so we were just sitting at the bar eating wings or whatever. But okay, so it's that weird, awkward thing, and then I think we did decide to talk, and then you get into that thing like, what do you do? But I kind of have a feeling that the guy knew who I was because he was definitely initiating the conversation, and so. He didn't ask me what I do, but I asked him what he did, which also makes me think that he kind of knew who I was. So he says, I was the service director of a Volkswagen store. So was the service director of a Volkswagen store. Now, first of all, where are we at in life that service director is applied to somebody running one store? Now, you could say I'm the parts and service director of a Volkswagen store, but the service director, like we know a lot of service directors running a lot of big groups, but when we are called to by the Urban Dictionary to describe the definition of service director, is it 1 store or 2 stores or 3 stores? At what point, Jeremy, do you become a director?
Chris, I've heard that term used with guys that have one store, and they are the service director at that one store. So I honestly don't know how to answer that question. I'm going to vote for 1 or above.
So just you can be vice president, you can be whatever you want. Just make up a title. Doesn't matter.
You can just you can label yourself anything that you want to be. It is America.
Okay, so he says was, and I so what happened? Oh, well, I was let go, so I'm no longer there, and I'm looking for a job. Do you know anybody looking? That whole thing, and so I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll help this guy. And I said, what was your net to gross? I don't know, he says. I don't know what my net to gross is.
That could have something to do with the was.
Yeah, and so to the question earlier, right, is like you got to understand. Like I actually earlier this week was talking to a director running 5 stores. He's an actual director. He's running 5 stores. The clear, appropriate use of the term director, and I said, what's the net to gross for all the stores? And he goes, oh, I don't know. We don't look at that. And I'm like, well, you're not a fit for us. Like, we don't need to be on a call. I can't help you because we grade ourselves on what's important because we don't like to get fired. You're going to get fired. Like, I'm telling you right now, you're going to get fired if you don't know the answer to that. Like, so let's say, for example, Christian here is running what do you call those, like, rest home things where, like, old people...
Convalescent center?
Convalescent? Is that what?
I don't know. I might have just made that up.
It could be called a nursing home.
A nursing home. That's it. So Christian here is running a nursing home. Now, it doesn't really matter if Christian knows the average age of everybody in his nursing home, right? Like, good old Chuck there, he could be 90, he could be 85, he could be 80. What matters is that Chuck's diaper gets changed. That's what matters. His age, the numbers don't matter in that situation. What matters is that we change Chuck's diapers and that he gets 3 meals a day and, that he's healthy. He takes his pills when he's supposed to take them. That's what matters. But in business, just like sports, there's a scoreboard. There's clear winning and losing. And so it's very clear if you've won or you've lost. One of the things that I thought was really interesting about watching the Last Dance documentary series on ESPN was, those players could recall games from 20-something years ago, 25 years ago, and they could talk about how many points they had scored and how many rebounds they had by the third quarter of a game and what they were thinking and what their plan was. Like, they know everything about everything. Like, you could go, I guarantee you right now, we could call up Michael Jordan and we could say, 1987, what was the win-loss record for the Bulls and what did you average? And he would go, I averaged 32 points a game and we won 61 games and lost whatever, right? Now, let's say you're the backup to the backup to the backup in the bullpen for the Colorado Rockies, and I say, what was the win-loss record 2 years ago for the Colorado Rockies? Maybe you don't know. But hence why you're the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup, because if you're the starting closer or a pitcher or anybody of significance on any sports team anywhere, you know if you won or lost, right? I don't know one dealer or general manager that doesn't have the financial statement within arm's reach from them in their office all the time. Most of the time it's just sitting there on the desk, but it's in a drawer, it's behind them, but it's somewhere without getting up. They can find the financial statement and they're looking at it. And when they look at the service numbers, your face comes up in their mind. Like, it's just a natural reaction. Your face comes up. And so if you are under the impression that net to gross and profit doesn't matter, you probably are going to get fired eventually because you're not looking at what's important. And so the industries let you down, us down, because they don't share those numbers with you sometime. But I would very much encourage you to go to the general manager or the owner and say, hey, I'm trying to get better and I want to be mentored. Mentor me on financial statements. Will you teach me what you know? And I guarantee you 9 out of 10 will pull you in and mentor you and start explaining and showing. Now, if you go to them and you're accusatory or indifferent or just a jerk or you don't know what you're talking about, they're probably not going to share it with you. But if you just say, hey, will you teach me? Will you mentor me? Everybody wants to mentor and share the things that they've learned. It's just natural that people want to do that. But if you're a service manager or director and you're not looking at the financial statement, it doesn't mean you're not judged on it. You're still being judged on it. So if you don't want your pay plan changed, why don't you really start to understand what the ROI is of you in that position? Because if you're not looking at the financial statement, we don't know if there's an ROI, right? So this kid that's making $18,000 as a backup service manager, if we don't know what the net to gross is and the profit is, you got a target on your head. I see it. The reason why I named my book The Irreplaceable Service Manager is because there's 50% turnover in the service manager position. And the reason why is because they don't know what the ROI is. If I go into a service department and I'm like, hey, I'm putting $200,000 on the bottom line every month, that's $2.4 million a year, and you're paying me $15,000 a month, I can do that math. Nobody's changing my pay plan. And if I go to the next service department to get a job and they're losing $5,000 a month, and I'm like, hey, the last place I was at, I got them to $2.4 million. This is what I want my pay plan to be. You're going to get that pay plan. You just are, because you know what the ROI is. You know what's important in business. And so you're not changing diapers. If you're not focused on the things that matter, you're just managing your day by feelings. And if you're just chasing gross, it's a recipe to disaster. I mean, I hear it over and over again, like, oh, my pay plan's just on gross. Well, that's good. Keep the pay plan. Don't suggest that they change it, but you better figure out what the net to gross is pretty quick, because they're going to come change your pay plan, because they're going to think, well, if we lower his pay plan, then we'll have more net. When they're not smart enough at the top of the company you're working for, if that's the case, to understand that you should be paid on net, right?
Yep. You might want to rent your home, not own it, right?
What?
You might want to rent your home, not own it, if you're on a gross pay plan.
Yeah.
No, you should always own your home, Christian. Come on.
No, but what he's saying is true. Like your income is going to go up and down because there's going to be 3 months a year where you don't have a job while you're looking for the next one.
Yep.
I agree. Chris, I want that last 3 minute, that was masterful. I've got to give you a high five and an applaud on that. That was absolutely amazing. That was phenomenal. Here's the back end to that as well. When the owner or management team is looking at the financials and they're looking at the performance of the department, if you're in charge of that, they're going to ask themselves a question. There's a price tag attached to your pay plan. They know what the monthly number is. They know what the annual number is. And if the systems can do a better job than having you there, that's when your pay plan gets changed, and that's when you get fired. Because the systems can outperform you, and then you become a commodity that is no longer needed. And that's the pain that's attached to ownership or upper management with those positions. So, man, that's well said. And this goes for service advisors as well. I remember my very first dealership job, about 3 weeks in, we had split stores. So I was at the Volkswagen, Porsche, and Audi store, and then BMW was same building, just a different drive. Well, one of the service advisors from BMW, she came over and said, hey, I need to talk to you. I said, what's going on? She says, come here. You need to slow down. And I'm like, what do you mean I need to slow down?
Here we go.
She goes, no, you don't get it. Like, why are you here? So I know you're like from, the independent world, but come on, you're making us all look bad. Like, you really need to slow down. I said, no way. I'm here to make as much money as I can, help as many customers as I can. This is, we earn what we're worth. We're on, commission. Let's go out, and if there's cars, I'm going to ride them. She goes, no, here's what you don't understand. As soon as you make this much money on a paycheck, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to change your pay plan, or they're going to bring in another advisor because they feel that you're overloading yourself. So you just this is what you're going to make here. You need to learn how to live in this box and just get by. And I'm like, thanks for the advice. Not going to change. And sure enough, when my paycheck hit it, guess what they did? They changed the pay plan.
Yeah, so I would say another thing is, if you understand how net to gross works and you've taken a department and turned it around, and let's say you're looking for another job, a question I would ask before I take the job is, and I would just ask the general manager or dealer, I would say, how much should a service manager or director make? And if they have a number in their head, like they would never make more than 12 grand, that isn't who you want to work for. Just take your stuff and walk out. Because there are a lot of people in our industry that have this weird thing where it has no connection whatsoever to performance. They just don't ever think a service manager should make more than $7,500 a month. And what you want, the answer you want to hear is, well, it's relative to the net to gross. If you're putting $2.5 million to the bottom line and parts is putting another $2.5 million to the bottom line because you're feeding parts with the service you're selling, then that's a net $5 million a year fixed ops operation. I don't care how much you make, it's relative to the performance of the department. So if you're interviewing for a job and the thought is, well, a service manager never makes more than $12,000, I wouldn't take that job. That's not who you want to work for. You want to work for somebody who says it's relative to your performance. They don't have a preconceived number in their head that's going to cap you, and every time you get close to making that number, they're going to cut your pay plan again because they don't believe you should ever make more than 15 or whatever.
Chris, and this works in reverse too. When you're interviewing people for positions, through my career with coaching and even being an owner and in service management, the advisors that have come to us that want a high salary, when we have a performance-based pay plan, when they could easily make that, but they need us to guarantee it, those guys or gals never work out because they're fixed on that salary and they know they can't perform at that level to make it month in and month out. So inevitably there's flaws in their character and flaws in their behavior, which is why they come in and ask for a salary. I've never once asked for a base salary anywhere I've gone. I have always worked my entire career on performance because I don't want that lid on my income. I want to be able to go out and make what I feel that I'm worth through the actions and what I drive down to the bottom line. So it can also work in reverse as well.
Yeah, it's good. So that's our thoughts. We appreciate you guys listening or tuning in today. And we will see you next time on Service Drive Revolution. Thanks for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified when we post new episodes. I'm Chris Collins, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Chris Bulldog Collins. And I'll see you again on the next episode.